Welcome back to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, you can finally stop whining about Doom, because it now makes with the working, and Twitch TV just went full metal Justin TV. You never go full Justin TV.
In addition to violating the GPL, you can now storm Steam games on ZFS. So deduplicate all the things and over Waifu Online make some steady progress. Soon, my babies. Soon.
NVIDIA finally fixed their driver cock-up. And I guess fixing that bigger regression didn't justify breaking the release schedule. And AMD announces Ryzen. Didn't actually release anything or even hint at the price, though.
Ryzen. I don't even understand that. What can have been like whole wheat some or, you know...
Or whiskey sourson.
Whiskey sour sourdoughs or something like that. Anyway, I'm Vince Stone here at LGC Actual, switching the bits. We're doing this all under Linux. This Nightmare Fuel's beautiful, but joining us from a frosty, chilly place in Canadian land.
It's so cold. It's so cold.
And with his new camera, all the way from Space Portugal.
Or the old one, as the case may be.
It's Pedro
Old new
Mateus.
camera.
And together with Chatroom Dynamic helping us form Cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. I don't have a whole lot to report. I just want... Man, I'm forgetting your name. I didn't write it down in my notes.
Jesse?
No, is it Jesse? Jesse. We need to cook. No,
Jesse,
dude over at Distro Watch is like, hey man, we're doing that Wednesday show. And he's like, oh, it's weird. I'm not picking that up. I'm going to have to change some things, but I'll make sure to see if I can get that done so we can pick up our weekly daily Wednesday show. I just want to say thank you for that. What's up, J Baby?
Oh, I started a new job this week, so lots of stuff to absorb. Realizing with fresh new passion that I hate Macintoshes, and we'll have to suffer through them until they fix VPNs. So, yeah. What about you, Pedro? What's going on?
It's been a bad week for hardware around my place because the motherboard on the Steam box died. The GPU and the calculator, which nowadays was basically Nori's PC, as it were, went into a coma. It didn't die because it can still power the LCD and it can still power the VGA port to put output to an external monitor. But it doesn't do like any acceleration anymore, and all you're getting is the software VESA drivers. So hey, good on Mesa for actually making that work and everything at once.
Well, one thing that is still putting out the graphics and the displays every week is our horse.
Yeah, you see, the horse was having some dominance issues, and as such, wasn't letting some people in its playground. But I think that's all resolved now. It's the Steam update. All right, we got a new beta, or we got a new stable update. So all those Steam beta updates that we have been covering over the past couple weeks have now been trickling down into the stable client. So if you're not tracking the beta because, say, it breaks your Steam installation or stops you from logging in, or one of the other myriad things that goes wrong with Steam updates in the beta, you can now get a lot of the functionality, including the new Steam controller functionality that requires you to update those UDEV rules. So do that now, ladies and gentlemen. It takes like 2 seconds. Update your UDEV rules.
Yeah, well, one of the things I was seeing definitely in there is you can now safely install on CFS volumes if you hate yourself that much, but it is an option for you. And I'm kind of glad that this is rolled into the stable, because last month, or it might have been month before last, they released a beta update and it prevented you from downloading games. It's like, they fixed it the next day. Then this month, they did a beta update that just nuked mine. I just had to scorch earth it and rebuild it. So I'm not in the betas anymore. B-Man?
Yeah, they did eventually fix that beta too, like the very next day. And it turns out it was an issue that if you had your controller plugged in, it would just nope the moment you started freaking fly. It would just nope. If you had a controller plugged in while you attempted to start Steam, I had an issue with that for this one too. The update is just like the full roundup of all the previous betas, and it's good. They also have, if you are actively using in-home streaming with, like, say, a Steam Link or any other device, if you have an NVIDIA GPU on your main box that you're streaming from, you also get NVFBC. It's got updated support. So that's awesome, I guess.
Perhaps if you're doing the in-home streaming thing,
Yeah.
and you haven't gotten yourself a Steam Link because that's just a weak ass Raspberry Pi. But speaking of streaming games in Steam, they had a bit of a snafu a couple months ago. Everyone was really excited about the Steam machines, and by everyone I mean no one, and therefore they were a massive commercial failure. And so there's this ZDNet article. Link to that's in our show notes about how, according to the Alienware guys, changes introduced in Windows 10 blunted the appeal of Steam machines. And I mean, y'all talked about this on the Wednesday show, but we can sort of expand on that from a little more of a gaming perspective.
Yeah, man, I kind of wanted to get your take on it because, for me, it's like, man, it's kind of like 100% on Valve, and what genuinely grinds my gears and says I can't blame Dell for going, I don't think we really want to continue selling these because
absolutely not.
Like Valve just needs to pull a summer and get its shit together and start acting like the multi-million-dollar company it is, as opposed to a bunch of flippant high schoolers, right?
Well, and I mean, we can put on our hindsight vision glasses and we can say, yeah, they tried to push a product to release when they were completely saying that our OS is still in beta. They didn't advertise aside from on Steam already or just basic word of mouth. They didn't really have that many developers committed via some sort of a hard requirement. We got that big announcement months before the Steam machine release, and they're like, oh, Batman's coming and Mad Max is coming and all these games. We eventually got a couple of them, but stuff like The Witcher and Batman, we never heard a peep out of the developers because there was never any real hard enforcement of that promise. I mean, having a couple of other developers on board would have been nice. Hopefully, Valve takes this as a learning experience because, Pedro was saying this on the Wednesday show. Steam machines are a good idea, especially considering the direction that consoles are going into, where you're going to have to buy a new one every 2 years. It's easier just to upgrade a single component than just buy an entirely new box. But it's going to take some time, and hopefully Valve will learn from their mistakes. Probably not, because this is Valve we're talking about. It took them 10 years to get a bug bounty program in. They don't even pay people. Oh, you can have some Steam bucks or some trading cards.
And it's like I mentioned on the Wednesday show. The third-party Steam machine OEMs were actively undercut by Valve themselves. Oh, what's that? You got a $50 quote-unquote Steam machine that people can just use to stream their games, and that's basically all they want for the most part? Oh, well, fuck you. It's like you're pushing out a Steam machine for $400 or $450 in the case of the base model of the Alienware one. And Valve's just going, yeah, no, there's a $50 one that can play all the games that you have set up on your main box, and you could just stream them. If I were an OEM at this point who made a Steam machine and actively, did everything that Valve didn't, which was market it and actually get people to talk about it and send it to reviewers and whatnot, I'd be pretty pissed. Pretty goddamn
pissed, and I wouldn't fault him. But to come back to what J-Baby was saying, as a learning experience on Valve's part, I think the only thing Valve really learned from this is they can shake Microsoft, tell them to sit, and make them roll over.
Perhaps, and again, you can always go back to the whole. They were releasing a console in the middle of a console generation when everyone had made their pick. So whatever. We can analyze this to death, and we probably could keep doing that for a while. But something that was in beta is still in beta, and I don't know. Empty fucked me up with that one. Damn it, Empty.
Yeah.
Patch Notes 1.26 is out for our favorite game, Rocket Cars. Not a whole lot in here. We got stat settings, preset data, new map selection, a couple of missed things, hot fix. We did give it a run. They did remove the Rocket Lab arenas from the casual arena rotation for now, as they say, because they were appearing too frequently. But something we tested for stability, I tested here in Chat Realm with Foxdog and Strider and a couple others, and we hammered on it for a little bit. We didn't get any spike crashes, so I was kind of impressed.
Oh, wait until we start playing. Like after we're done the show, it's just going to be crashing 100% of the time. You just got to poke Murphy's Law like that. Don't fuck with Murphy, man.
When I saw this show up in the notes and I saw MT's comment on the side there, no more beta, it's like, wait, really? Did they push it out of beta? Can we throw chairs at it? No, I don't see that anywhere. What? And then Ven commented and I'm like, right, okay, so yeah, we'll have to assume that for now the Linux version is still in beta.
Well, admittedly, if it's out of beta, I was like, oh, this is gonna be an easy review, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they also had some issue with there being some, if you had multiple profiles on a single machine, sometimes your scores will get erased. They can't fix it for the PlayStation 4 and Xbone people, but they fixed it for PC and Linux and Mac. So that's definitely a thing. I love your tears, console peasants. They're just so salty and delicious. They're sweet as sauce. Speaking of sauce.
Ukulele sauce?
There's going to be some ukuleles in Linux. And before we go any further, a bit of a PSA. This is not by any means an endorsement to pre-order this game. Don't do it. Stop giving developers money before they deliver the goods. Okay?
What's your problem, man? When is that ever back for Carmageddon? What?
Also, it's a little too late for this game, considering it was kickstarted. So yeah, nice going with that one.
Kickstarter in general, double dipping, what have yous. Yeah, no. Wait for this until release. They say it'll come out at around April 11th, 2017. So wait for it. The guys behind Playtonic, the team who is developing the game, they have a lot of experience. Most of them came from other studios, and like combined, they have well over 100 years of experience in the gaming industry. So that's something, I guess. But fact of the matter is, none of those people have ever released any games for Linux. So we don't know anything about this game. So don't pre-order this.
You told that to Foxy. Foxy's always like, shut up, take my money. And hey, man, everybody, we're not telling you what to do. We're just saying, I was like, I don't know. But this thing's clocking in at currently 39.99 wet stinky caches. That's if you just want the regular old school business. If you want the YOLO swag and the Dorito, that's 50 wet stinky caches for something. It's probably going to be a Unity game. But, Jordan, you were talking about it could be a good 3D platformer. I don't think such a thing exists.
I don't know. I was a big fan of Banjo-Kazooie back in the old N64 days. I enjoyed that game, and I mean most of the brains behind that are now working on ukuleles. So yeah, at the very least, you have a good foundation. You can have good foundations and come up with a crap product. But I enjoyed the first two. I didn't play Nuts and Bolts because fuck that. But yeah, Banjo-Kazooie was a solid 3D platformer, and considering we've had to deal with the likes like Anima Gate of I can't control the camera and therefore I'm gonna fall and have to restart
that
this
one's
puzzle
not
again.
Too bad. And you can actually, there's an option, I went back and checked, you can actually disable the camera auto realignment thing. So yeah.
Interesting. Either way, it would be nice to see a good 3D platformer that is not terrible. It is a Unity game, so there is that. But we've seen good Unity games, we've seen bad Unity games. Mm-hmm. That's not to prejudge based on the tools, but you could go ballistic otherwise.
Absolutely could.
Indeed, completely ballistic. And the fine folks behind Ballistic NG have put out an official Mac and Linux builds. There will be links in the show notes, and you could go to this particular post and just download the 64-bit Linux executable, and it will run. At least it did for me. Maybe not so much for Ven, but yeah, for me, not only did it run, but it did that same thing that Papo and Yo also did, which was, even though you weren't running the game through Steam, it was still showing it on Steam as you were playing that game and unlocking the achievements. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the Steamworks API.
Yeah. So at least they have that going. And for me, again, I reiterate, this is for me, it worked. And it does look a lot like Wipeout.
Yeah, it's definitely an early prototype. I mean, it looks like, if they made Wipeout on the Atari Jaguar, maybe this is roughly what it would look like. It's currently an early access price to sell as free. You can go and yoink it. I tried to load it on the 1604 Ubuntu's. it just kind of sit there and it's like, I don't have any popcorn, man. So, I tried it one more time and it was like, nope, still no popcorn. And I gave up. But it's good to see them testing this. They do plan on adding the Steam version once the kinks are hammered out.
Indeed, I didn't get a chance to test this out, so I can't vouch for whether it works or not on Fedora 24. But I mean, it's a racing game. It looks like it has some basic graphics. It could be good.
I guess we should say, Strider just pointed out, because I remember the old game Ballistics. This is like Ballistics NG. So, haha, not the same.
Yeah, it's the Vietnamese version of Ballistic, because it's Ballistic Eng, right?
It is literally like Wipeout with a much better frame rate if you could get it to run, because I remember Wipeout back in Wipeout 2097 in the Saturn, the frame rate was horrible.
And then again, you were like, well, how many triangles is this game pushing? And you're like, 4. So let's go from 3D to hipster pixel with 4 Team. Welcome to the secret elite facility. All right, what is this? You run around, you go pew, pew, pew. Burn them, dissolve them in acid, or simply blow them the F up. Why do we like this? Oh, don't say we don't like it, but it is priced to sell currently 15% off at $6.79. What stinky cashes, and what caught my eye is the fact that it's not just multiplayer, not just online multiplayer, but cross-platform multiplayer. And we're always looking for games to play with you. So, we might play around. We might pick this up, have a go. What do you think? No? Yes? Maybe?
I mean, it looks like a hipster pixel Awesome Knots deathmatch. Foxdog makes the comparison to Broforce, but I think there's less of an emphasis on co-op gameplay in the sort of Contra style. This is just straight up murder people. They have bots, they have multiplayer, so I guess you could consider it like a 2D platforming version of Counter-Strike? Question mark? I don't know.
I'm going to have to agree with M. Foxdog on the dodgy drawings. Look at that lady's face. The lady with the rocket launcher on the logo.
What is wrong with your fingers?
I like Mr. Red Shirt in the background. He is like overly excited about something. It's weird. It's weird.
They all look kind of weird, but that lady, what the hell happened to her skull? It's like,
oh my God, what's wrong with your face?
Jordan, he's probably just excited for our upcoming news segment.
Oh yeah, he's excited that he can open up all the GLX gears now that NVIDIA has got their shit together. We'll discuss that and how to render things in Blender. Render Blender. Coming up next.
Blender Day.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, look away now because we're about to start whoring ourselves out. Yeah.
It's rather gratuitous, and we make it a little naked. You might see a penis somewhere, but that's neither here nor there. If you want to not see our penises, you can give us money to keep them in our pants by heading on over to LinuxGameCast.com, hitting the support the shows button. Right there, we got some Amazon affiliate links. They're wonderful. You can support us without spending a dime on us. You can spend it all on yourself, like the greedy motherfuckers you are. Or if you're so inclined and a little more generous, you can click the PayPal Donato buttons to give us a one-time or recurring donation. But if you want the best bang for your buck, you should head on over to patreon.com/LinuxGameCast. We got 92 of you psychopaths, including our newest one, Urtane, helping us out, giving us money for shows. Each show, every show gets paid. We don't say, oh, we're going to charge you we're going to prorate you for the entire month and then we're going to fuck off. No, it's value for value. If we don't put out a show this week, you don't have to pay. So we also got some lovely goals. We got some backer bonus benefits if you sign up for 5 cents, $1, $2.50. And if you sign up for $6.66 a month or per episode, you've really affirmed that Chicago kicks ass. But we're hoping to get to that 175 because that lets us prototype some new shows. We're going to get some dedicated live streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you want to see more of us, tell your friends to give us money, all of the money.
No, but we definitely want to thank everyone in chat realm right now. Let's see. I see the empties. I see Randomaski. We got Jill, Steve, Mr. Foxy, Friezo. I don't know if Friezo's around, but anyway, you still get all the thanks, man. I mean, everyone who has made it through this year. And we really want 2017 to be a little different. So we have like a slightly bigger budget. We're really aiming for that $200 mark because we do have that Zen coming up and we're about to talk about that. And we're going to be doing an overhaul. Maybe doing a live call-in show. Maybe building a little studio. Who knows? Pedro, what's up?
That would be really awesome. But with the horror out of the way, let's get into some news. And in true LGC tradition, we start off with some drivers. Yep. So you may remember last week, we were kind of railing on NVIDIA last week or the week before that. The week before that, that's the one. And because they cocked up a driver release, that doesn't really happen all that often, but they did. So if you opened more than one GLX context for anything, so say you opened up Chrome in a game, you were going to get a significant performance impact, especially if you were on one of the Maxwell cards. Now, on my end, with the 1080, I had to open up 18 instances of GLX gears for the bug to present itself, but there it was. It was definitely there. But they fixed it. They released the 375.26 on the 14th, and it's right now available for download. And they also fix a couple of other regressions. If you installed the 375.10 and the 375.20, you saw a little error that showed up that complained about not being able to replace the libagl.so.1 with a symlink because it already existed. They fixed that. They also fixed the regression.
That one's actually been around for a while. I've been hit with that. But yeah. They've sorted it so that when it installs the 32-bit libraries, it knows, hey, I've already installed this one file.
Yep.
Which is nice.
One thing I do want to point out, it is currently available in the Ubuntu PPAs if you don't want to build it from source, because Ubuntu, you're just asking for it most of the time. And I did notice, I didn't open a bunch of GLX gears like Pedro, because Pedro's like, I got a 1080, look at all my gears. On the 980, just like Rocket League would just start chugging for no reason. We couldn't figure out what it was. It was those drivers. These new drivers do resolve that issue.
Yeah, and right now, with these new drivers, I managed to open up enough GLX gears instances to fill up both of my screens. Admittedly,
only both of them? Two 1080p screens? That's so many. That's so much
just
GLX gears.
It's a teeny tiny area, as it were, but yeah, no, the bug didn't present itself. Admittedly, they were running a bit slow by the time I got into the second monitor. They came down from the usual 30-something thousand FERPs to about 100. But yeah, no bug with like the one instance just not rendering at all. So they fixed it. Good.
Well, yeah. Maybe we can try those new drivers on our news end.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Let the shelling begin.
Yeah, we're still waiting until January. Yeah, this article comes from Lilliputting. I used to talk to the guy who originally started Lilliputting. Back in the day, he was a big contributor to the ASUS EEE netbook forums. I used to hang around there. But he writes up that the chip formerly known by its codename Zen will be called Ryzen at launch. And if you've been paying attention to our chat realm, there you may have seen that AMD actually shared the Ryzen Blender image renderer thingy that they use to compare the new 8-core, 16-thread, 3.4 gigahertz, 20 megabytes of L2 plus L3 cache processor with the Intel i7 6900K, which, admittedly, this new AMD Ryzen did manage to kind of, keep the pace up, and that is an $1,100 CPU, so that's definitely being competitive. Yeah, Ven is showing you the benches there, and there are a lot of interesting results, especially Strider's, because Strider got like a minute. It took him about a minute to render the file, and then Jordan came out and said, "Oh, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha." That's the one.
I'm sorry. That's all right. I'm done.
And Jordan got 44 seconds. I'm like, okay, so that's the difference between the old Broadwell and the new Skylake. That's fair. And then Kloinka on page 2 with a 4770K. It was like, 44 seconds too. It was like, oh, okay. I'm just not going to take anything Strider says from now on.
Well,
seriously.
Now, to be fair, Kloinka has that clocked at a full gigahertz above the stock. So I'm curious if I push this to 4.5 or 4.8, what kind of crazy timing I can get.
But yeah, in the actual presentation that AMD did earlier in the week, they did the blender and the handbrake comparisons between this new CPU and the 6900K, but they didn't really show any game comparisons outside of that Dota 2 streaming bullshit that they tried to pull.
That kind of made me a sad panda, and yes, Random Asking, it did take quite a bit of courage, didn't it? Especially to do that, because well, I'm streaming Dota 2 and I'm dropping frames. I was like, bitch, I can do that on Linux with my 980 with an 8150 from 6 years ago without dropping frames.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not definitely a thing, but since we're just doing a quick speculations, Phil, I want one really bad. But what do we think the 8-core 16-threaded part's going to clock in at? I'm guessing about 550 American wet stinky caches.
Yeah, in between that and 6, I'm thinking that sounds about right. But they have said we're not competing on price, so they may just like stick it. They might stick that one at like $999 just as a middle finger to Intel to sort of screw people over with that. Who knows? It's AMD, man.
Yeah,
it's Wild West.
That's the thing they forgot to mention. It's like, what's the MSRP on that one? Brad and Dr. Lisa Sue was like, nope.
Nope. I was like,
you can exchange currency.
What's
for
his name from the Chappelle Show? You know, the itchy scratch. I was like, y'all's got any of them prices?
Yeah. No, they actually didn't mention it, but there were those leaks a while back that said that the 8-core 16-thread part was probably going to be $399 wet stinky US capitalist dollars. We'll have to wait and see. It's probably going to be between 400 and 500 for the 8-core, and the 16-core is probably going to get into the 700s, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Twitch is going to keep on twitching because they've announced IRL and mobile broadcasting and updated community guidelines, so that just means they mixed everything else. The interesting thing about this is IRL mode, which they basically said, hey, remember Justin TV? Yeah, now you can just broadcast anything you want, basically. And that's definitely a thing. And I guess also of note for anyone playing the home game is now gaming talk shows is just now talk shows. So
yeah. According to the updated community guidelines, as our platform evolved to reflect your passions, we have thus decided to revamp our guidelines while keeping the spirit with which they were launched. No, you're not. Starting now, we are removing all restrictions on non-endemic content. All creators are encouraged to share video on Twitch, gaming and non-gaming alike. Just be sure to categorize your content appropriately. Hi! Hello, we're Twitch TV. We would like to become YouTube, pretty please.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be nice if YouTube can get a nice little kick in the pants and maybe improve a bit of their service. Maybe dial down the content ID a little bit because they're gonna have some issues with the people streaming possibly copyrighted or licensed material. But Ben, I think you're excited about the prospect of doing a competitive eat-off. How many vegan hot dogs can you swallow?
Nope, they need to have like competitive, like self-harming or something like that.
Yeah, they have they have a very specific clause about self-destructive behavior, which includes like overeating. So
wait, so this show is not allowed because it's pretty self-destructive. I mean,
I don't know. Maybe they could have like a selfless, reckless self-endangerment channel and. Anyway, moving on.
Oh yeah, we're talking about the booty butts. That's right. The lovely people over at the Wine Project, those people who have taken it upon themselves to try and recreate the Windows 132 API, bugs and all, have made some serious headway with DirectX 3D or DirectX 3D or Direct 3D 11 development. They've got to a point where, for the most part now, you can run Overwatch. There's still some patches that are in review, and I died, so let's give this a quick refresh. But yeah, no, there are a couple patches still in review. There's some stuff that doesn't quite meet the wine coding standards, but once that gets sorted out, it'll make its way into wine staging. The patch that is available right now, if you really, really, really want to ogle Tracer's butt or Widowmaker's butt or Zarya's butt or whoever's butt you do want to ogle, you can, if you feel like compiling your own line, you can get Overwatch running. I do like how they say Mac users are out of luck. They can't get that working at all.
Yeah, but let's not pull a Phoronix here and say that you can actually play Overwatch if you compile wine from Git, because you can't. You can get it to run, you can get it to start, you can see the menu, but you can't play yet. So, right?
And that support isn't coming in for Wine 2.0, but you know, Portal for Linux has been like released for like 6 years now, so we can't just completely throw out what Phoronix says or that style of journalism. Am I right?
Indeed, but something either you can play, you might be able to play soon, because Doom, it's finally on the Linux. It's not native though, because you're gonna need a little bit of wine sauce to get it up and running.
Because it's Bethesda.
Yeah, Enable representing Arch, mainlining it at 4.9.0. It's like, yeah, got it up and running. And more importantly, Empty was kind enough to join me as we watched Strider in Shadowrun from Lutris. He was like, yo, what's up? I got Doom running. And we're like, that's a filthy heretic purchase, but we're still going to watch. Looks like it's running pretty good on his rig. Good times. I don't know if this is 100% all available, but I'm pretty sure we know it's a thing. We know it. We've seen it. We've recorded it. There's video evidence of it. And relatively sure in short order it will be on Lutris.
Yeah, they required a couple dirty hacks in Wine to get the bcrypt DLL to work. There's actually a Steam post, the link to which is in our show notes, that describes the process that this guy went through. What I'm genuinely curious about, though, is what's Vulkan pass-through performance like, because it doesn't have to go through any translation layer. So are we going to get close to native?
Apparently it works. It actually works. You have to use the Git version of Wine staging. You can't just use the regular Wine 2.0. You have to use the Wine staging one in order to get Vulkan working, but it seems to work. I don't know exactly what the performance hit is.
Is it performant? That's the real question.
On Strider's i7 box, and it was running very smooth, and considering we were streaming, I know me and Empty were noticing it was being a little herky-jerky on Twitch, so we moved it over to the YouTube live stream. And what we were getting back looked bee's knees. And
it is Strider's computer, though. So
Atomic, probably not going to make this a heretic purchase, but hang on for the hate mail section. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So, here it is.
One step closer to unifying everything. SDL has been introduced into the Unity 5.6 beta. So now window handling and input can be done through SDL, through the Unities. Unfortunately, this is only beta, so don't expect to have all these wonderful Automagic controller supports in your latest version of Anima. But what is good is, assuming this makes it into the next Prime version of Unity, it means that all subsequent Unity games after that release will be completely playable in Wayland, assuming NVIDIA can get their shit together summer and make sure that your Wayland session works nicely with the NVIDIA proprietary drivers. Once that's all up and running, we should be a little more future-proofed for that. What would be really nice, though, is if they switched all the input handling and all the display drawing to SDL to further unify the code base, and maybe work on improving that SDL so that everyone feels a bit of the love. Am I right?
No, I mean, it's great. I mean, just roll out SDL cross-platform. It could anger and confuse some Windows developers and possibly also Mac developers. Didn't have an issue with it. I think they're doing some initial work with Vulkan on this release as well. The Linux editor, for me at least, is still spike crashy as fucking all, though.
Yeah, there are actually a lot of people complaining about that the Linux editor is crashing a lot, but it's good to see SDL and Vulkan support, even in a preliminary state. And like Jordan already said, the SDL support is only for Linux. So if you, say, build a game project with this particular beta and you export it to Linux, you get SDL. But if you export that exact same build to Windows or Mac, you don't get it. So that's something they really, really need to unify in the future, because at this point, they're basically maintaining just that teeny tiny code base for Linux specifically.
Yeah, and SDL makes everything automatically work cross-platform. It's really easy to implement new platforms into SDL, which can only be good for Unity. As more and more things come out, it's easier to just shove that little shim in there and have your game.
And it's good to actually see progress with Unity, because I remember in the old days of arguing with TAC, there was like, you need to get SDL to the input and put controllers. Like, no, we don't. And I was like, G-Money, come in this argument. And
they tried to make a new input system instead of just putting SDL. Why?
Because they love the taste of Ryan C. Gordon's tears. But speaking of sweet salty tears, we have some things to piss off Strider this week. Oh God, it's the new hideous Google Plus. Ben, what did you do?
No, Lutris Not 4.4 is released, and the packages are currently building. They've already built, in case you're wondering. A couple of new things: fixed joystick detection and whatever that word is. They make Dolphin runnable by itself, kind of a bonus soda on that, and prevent crash on empty wine prefixes. That is awesome. And ignore processes launched before the game. Something about RetroArch. Check for presence of checksum if BIOS is. Just another smooth update. Lutris.net. You want to check that out. You're wondering what it is. It's a really good way to get, your GOG games, your wine games, basically anything that's not going to launch directly through Steam. Think of it as like Steam Lite, and it's like Steam's cousin, but it, does a little bit of math on the side, but it's still a good person.
Steam's redheaded stepchild, as it were.
Now, I did find interesting that Strider decided to remove the Python 3 XDG and the XDG user dirs as dependencies. Now, there are a lot of, well, not a lot, but there are a few sticking points on Steam of games that don't adopt the XDG standard, and they just make a folder in your home folder. They don't even try to hide it. It's just there. It's like, really? Really? So, what are you doing here, Strider? Where are you going with this?
Listen, the only thing I care about is he's actually added a widget to set global environment variables for all your games running under it. So if you're using Prime on your laptop to game like I am, it makes my life a little easier instead of having to go edit one of their set up INI JSON files or whatever the hell Strider has in there. So good for him on that. I still don't think I'm even on Lutris 4.0 on the laptop. I should probably upgrade it. It's probably making Strider vibrate with anger, which makes me vibrate with pleasure. But that's
okay. So according to Strider, those two dependencies weren't necessary because all of that stuff is in PyGobject. Okay.
All right. Hey man, check out Lutris. Feedback. It's a great game. But speaking of games, why don't we throw some chairs at some?
Oh yeah, I mean, like it's the game that won't die or won't leave my head because of all the dumb sliding block puzzles. We're throwing chairs at Quern. Stay tuned. Very rarely does there come a game that straight out insults your intelligence. We're throwing chairs this week at Quern. Undying Thoughts from Zadbox Entertainment, developed on the Unity engine that you can pick up for, oh God, 30 Canadian dollars. God, our economy is terrible. Jeez. What is it? Discover the truth about Quern's past, unfold the mysteries of its present, and be the explorer who shapes the future. Quern introduces reusable puzzle mechanics to the classic genre, making the player think about the game as a whole, and not just a series of individual challenges. Sounds pretentious. And let's, throw some chairs at it. 1 chair means that it's garbage. 2 chairs that means that it's meh. 3 chairs means that it's pretty good. 4 chairs means that it's amazing. We also got our categories of doom mixed with the working, shiny sounds, controls, and fun. So Ven, did you make with the working with the undying thoughts of Quern? That's a sentence.
Queso? Yes, Queso. I mean Quern and Quark. I don't know. Over here on the box of business, the Ubuntu 1604 LTS 980 powered 4K display. It got 8 gigajoules of the RAM organs in it. It ran all right. But if you're going to be running this with just 8 gigajoules of RAM, you might want to think twice, because this thing will nom up a solid 6 for, I don't know, it felt like it. And, with the 980, the FERPs, even at 1080p, we're all over the damn place, ranging from like 70 plus to sub 30, within inches of each other. I'm like, oh, look, penny. Oh, all right. Now we're down to, 25 FERPs as opposed to 70. However, it's still completely playable. So I can't really ding it a chair from that. This is not an action game. You're not necessarily dodging things. Most of the time, at least for me, I was sitting there blankly staring at something going, what the actual... Anyway, I'm going to give that 4 chairs.
Yeah, I wanted to play this in windowed mode because I was streaming it earlier this week. You can check that out on our Twitch channel or youtube.com/LinuxGameCast. I'm done plugging our own shit now. Anyways, I had to edit the prefs file to change the resolution and set it to windowed mode because if you do it through the UI, it doesn't quite work. And yes, as Ben said, the performance is all over the place, even on the i7 6700K with the GTX 980 on Fedora 24. You're looking around, it's like, oh yeah, we're having around 80 FPS. Nope, 20. Oh, moving around 60. Cool. We're gonna stop here. 10. 3 chairs.
Yeah, no, there's definitely something weird going on here because with the FX 8370E overclocked at 4.2 gigahertz and the GTX 1080, I really wanted to give 4 chairs to a Unity game on the makes with the working section for once, but I can't. There is no Unity screen to nope. Granted. But the performance is a crapshoot. You look a certain way. Look, 100 FERPs. Then you turn 10 degrees to the right. It's like 30 FERPs. What in the actual fuck? Have you, I don't know, have the developers never heard of culling? Or just not rendering things that the player can't see and probably won't be able to see for a long, long time, considering? Well, we'll get to that later. It's like, it's really, really odd. So for me, it gets 3 chairs.
All right, well, that's 3 chairs to mix with the working. Up next is the shiny and the sounds. Vin, did it make with the pretties?
Is it pretty? Well, my first thought was after the initial load. The initial load for this game's a beast. You wake up and you're like, okay, here's the thing. Savage Lands? Hello? Is this Savage Lands? This looks a lot like Savage Lands. Yeah. It really does have, if you played Savage Lands, it has that everything is slightly greedy as fuck filter on it. But even so, it's not necessarily ugly, and it's nice to see something not made entirely with Unity assets. There are a few in there. But that draw distance on Brad, man, it is absolutely a bit shit. Kind of like Savage Lands. You know, even in your first area, you know, much pop in such mountain, you know, like mountain just like appears and like, oh, back off, it disappears. It's just like, wow, in 64, it's kind of brilliant. It does have sounds and, you know, the voice acting, I guess you could call it borderline competent. But this is something, this is the type of game that demands to be played with K-pop, you know, blasting into your head organ. But then again, that might have been my problem, that I'm going to discuss a bit more about that in the fun section. But technically, it showed me things, and technically, it made noises. So, middle of the road on that with 2.
Requiring K-pop doesn't sound like it bodes too well for this game, but I mean, yes, the frame rate is super inconsistent, but it does paint a good-looking and eerie setting. There is a really good use of atmosphere here. The entire place feels mysterious and empty. And like, there's stuff to be explored. It's sort of that eerie isolationist setting that you get from your Myst games. So good on them for reproducing that. And yeah, it's using the Savage Lands filter, but hey, if it works, it works. It looks reasonably well. Or it looks pretty good, even with the stock Unity assets aside. It's a good looking game, which is nice to see from a Unity title. The voice acting is all right, even though it's basically just your NPR style. I'm going to read this in a monotone voice, and I'm going to tell you all the things that you can read on the paper and blah blah. Yeah, see, I've lulled Ben to sleep. It's like a documentary, except it insults your intelligence by giving you silly puzzles. We'll get to that. One funny thing though is while it does look good up close, far away not so much. At one point you get access to a telescope, and if you peer off in the distance, the trees don't render properly, so the foliage will appear but the bark won't, and there won't be any trunks. It's a little weird, but it gets 3 chairs because it's a decent looking game.
Yeah, it is. It does look good. Very good, if I may say so. Everything is detailed, and it seems to have been designed, at least the bits that you need to pay attention to because they involve puzzles, usually. It seems to have been designed with a lot of care. The background music, with, you know, the ubiquitous exception of a pair of tracks, is also what you'd expect from a puzzle game and a do seem to be mostly unintrusive, except for those two really weird ones that sound so out of place. I just ended up muting the background music altogether and just listened to Enya. Just listen to the best of. Yeah. I did notice something at one point, and I can't really unhear it from then on. It's the footstep noise has exactly the same cadence whether you're walking or sprinting. And just to add insult to the immersive injury, they don't give you a separate footstep slider on the audio options. For me, at this point, I either played the game dead silent, except for Eddie in the background, or that teeny tiny bit is always niggling at the back of my mind. And now I can hear some of you say, it's like, why are you paying attention to the footstep noises instead of the puzzles? I'll tell you why in the fun section. So for Shiny and Sounds, it gets 3 chairs.
If you told me from the outset that this game either requires K-pop or Enya, I probably would have walked away from it and running screaming. But anyways, that's enough of my shtick. Controls, Ben, how did it play?
What was our chair total for the Shiny and Sounds?
That was two chairs for Shiny and Sounds. Thought I mentioned that.
Right. Not much to report back, Brad. It's your standard Gerbil Plus keyboard lot. Nothing exceptional. Kind of funky with you have your primary camera, what you would expect. Your first-person shooter type bit, roll around. Then you have your secondary camera. When you right-click on the gerbil, then things just kind of freeze and you can move around, and haven't had much use with that. Took me a bit to get used to, however. But, nothing strange. And it's like, oh, the game's broken. And it's like, well, all right, I can learn to use this. Really, my own complaint with the controls, maybe not even so much with the controls, but, well, I guess it definitely is the menu system, your inventory system, and switching back between your notes, because sometimes you got to read your notes because little things are drawn on there, or going back to your inventory can take a bit more time than I like. But everything else is, quite solid. Didn't try this with a controller, but I didn't hate myself that much. So 3 chairs.
I tried it with the DualShock 4 controller and it didn't straight up work, so I just figured out it requires keyboard and mouse because of adventure game rules. I'm gonna ding it a chair because the inventory itself, where you flip through the scroll wheel to go through your items, is super finicky, and sometimes you just gotta be very, very gentle, and sometimes you don't. I will echo Ven's sentiment about the note-taking thing. Every time I have to look at that stupid animation to freaking of the book opening to confirm what I've seen on the wall or whatever I've sketched, it's just really annoying. No, just cut back to it. It would be great if it had a Steam overlay style interface. That would be perfect for this sort of game. But no, I got to look at this book opening up. Also, you can't switch from the journal to the inventory to the letters page using the hotkeys. You have to always exit and re-enter the menu, which means, guess what? You're looking at a book opening and closing. Jeez. Beyond that, just your standard keyboard and mouse thing. Ben already mentioned it. And you have a jump option. I don't know why though. I haven't seen you have to use it for anything. Maybe Pedro can enlighten me. He's played a bit further than I have, but it gets 3 chairs. I'm done rambling. Go, Pedro, do your thing.
Yeah, no. For me, that wasn't even the biggest sticking point. For me, the biggest sticking point were the invisible walls. There are invisible walls everywhere. I get, that there are some places where this makes sense. Real Mist, the remake of the original, it did it too. But it didn't do that stupid thing that this game does, that it won't let me jump over a 1-foot palisade, hedge, fence, whatever. Why? Why can't I do that? There was definitely a
because you got no legs, Lieutenant Dan.
There was a growing sense that I wasn't playing the game so much as I was being herded through it. And I didn't feel like the player anymore at that point. I felt about as much like a player as I did when I was 9 years old.
Hey,
and
man,
I was in
Hypercard
Disneyland.
has limitations. Wait, this isn't Hypercard.
And I was in Disneyland and I was going through that Star Wars sim thing. I didn't feel like I was in control at all. I was just pushing buttons and sliding blocks to make the next set piece happen so I could progress, sort of. Now, technically speaking, there's really nothing wrong with the controls in Quern. You can rebind most of them except for the movement keys, but they've already mirrored those between WASD and the directional arrows, so that's fine for me. The mouse sensitivity slider, which is a Unity 5 thing, it finally works. They finally fixed that, so that's always a plus. But for a game with technically sound and functioning controls, I don't feel like I'm in control at all. 2 chairs.
Wow, that completely misses the point of the control section, but sure, 2 chairs for controls. Maybe you should have saved it for this one, which is the fun section. Ben, did you have fun playing Quern?
Actually, Murdoch, I did, because you know what? Hey, man, we're not the A team. You know, LGC Weekly, we're more like the D- team. But that said, we do all have our special set of skills. Mine, however, apparently is not solving puzzles in a strange world. You're just fucked if we're relying on me for that. This game, basically, you're going to start off at Thor's hammer, and you're like, oh, man, good thing I left my symbiote at home, or I'd get zapped in that stupid cave. And you just get a note, and you're like, hey, man, you've been abducted. Creepy, because raisins, deal with it. After that, it's basically Full Metal. Here's some puzzles. How about? The game's just going to let you go, and you're like, go explore this great world that we've built. Unfortunately, I'm either out of practice, you know, braining on the puzzles, or pants on head retarded. Maybe a little bit of both if we're just being genuine with each other. I managed to sort a few, but I'm basically still kind of stuck in that first area. I know, it's like, oh, here it comes. It's like, no. That's not a bad thing, because it's been a while since a game straight out called me a moron and backed it up. And I was like, And this game backed it up hard. Quark, Undying Thoughts, did just that. And I'm kind of looking forward to sorting it later on when I have more time. This is not something, this is definitely one of my desert island games. And if I'm stuck on a desert island, I think I would enjoy this. Maybe they need to sort the menus a little bit better. That would have probably got more playtime from me. I think I did, 126 minutes into it. And flipping back and forth, trying to sort it out. The original Myst came with a journal. Maybe if I'd had a notebook, but I don't have pen and paper in this house because, hard copy. I liked it. I liked it because it challenged me, and we needed something Myst-like on Linux. And I think this serves both of those bits. So I'm going to give it a solid 3.
Yeah, I had to bust out a frickin' notebook to solve a couple of the puzzles. I have this handy. Mind you, I only used like 2 pages because I gave up, but fuck it. I mean, I can see the appeal of this game. It's quiet, it's atmospheric, you solve some puzzles, you have yourself a good old time. I'm not one of those people who finds this sort of game appealing. When I have to bust out the pad and paper to solve some puzzles in a game, we're not going down a good road. A lot of the nice things I've said about this game are in the Shining Sound section because the game is beautiful looking. For a Unity game, it is well above the standard that we've been conditioned to accept, which is nice. The puzzles, though, are fairly obfuscated. Like sometimes they'll give you some good direction. Like you could see me coming to the realization that I needed to check the letters to solve the first puzzle in the stream. But sometimes it helps if you telegraph what not necessarily what you need to do, but what you need to accomplish in order to figure stuff out. And they give you some fairly cryptic hints that aren't particularly, in my opinion, helpful. I guess that's part of the puzzle thing. Pedro is going to make a comparison to Steven's Sausage Roll. I like that sort of puzzle game because it gives you a very simple set of rules and then says, here are a bunch of logic puzzles that we're gonna trick you into thinking you're succeeded until the last possible second. Then you realize, oh, I'm fucked, aren't I? And you got to start over again. This game, not so much. There's a lot of variety in the puzzles. There's definitely a lot of different challenges. But again, if you're not really dealing with a consistent set of rules between them, aside from you stick the torch in the thing and it lights up. Well, spoilers, but you'll figure that out within like 5 seconds. Yeah, I mean. It's just running around, flailing around, feeling dumb. I play video games because I like escapist fantasies, and that allows me to escape my bumbling, idiotic real-world self, not to reinforce that. So I gotta give it 1 chair.
Yeah, I love puzzle games. I do, and I too busted out the notepad. You can't really see it. There it is. Yeah, that's just for the first bit. There's all the spoilers there. Go back and rewatch that bit if you want. But I like puzzle games. I played a lot of Myst. I played a lot of Riven. I played a lot of Uru. And I even played Uru Online, the multiplayer one. Yeah. And this is the real kicker about this game. The reason I started noticing the footstep sounds that I mentioned earlier and their unwavering cadence is because I spend more time trying to find the puzzles.
Or more Trime. That's
it.
the secret title of the Trine 4.
Yeah, it's the expansion we never got. But I spent more time trying to find the puzzles than actually solving them. In none of those games in the Myst series did I spend 30 minutes going around the same places over and over, wondering, what the fuck do I do now? Where the hell's the puzzle? Why? Now, a good puzzle game, and this is the bit that Jordan was alluding to, and I have actually mentioned this before, hands the player the proverbial loaded gun and then sits back with a bag of popcorn and watches the idiot shoot himself in the foot over and over. That's Stephen Sausage Roll. That's how they do it, and that's good puzzle game design. Quern tells the player that there's a loaded gun somewhere in this stupidly pretty and over-designed island, expecting people will go through the trouble of finding that so that they can then proceed to shoot themselves in the foot with it for a bit. Fuck that noise. Seriously, there's good puzzle design, and then there's being asinine. Guess which one this game fits into? One chair.
All right, well, that's one chair for fun, and we tally all that up. And Quern, Undying Thoughts, gets 2 chairs. So, final thoughts, ladies, gentlemen, persons of indeterminate identity.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't try to throw this giving, the 3 chairs for the fun because, I'm kind of like with Jellybean in general. It's like, I like a good puzzle game, but I'm not necessarily clever enough to play them, but I like challenging myself. It's like, I know I would get into the Psychoduco or whatever it's called, with the numbers.
Sudoku?
Yeah, or like brain games or stuff like that. I know I need to do that, Maybe I'm going to save all this till I get in the home to where it's like legitimate when I can't count past purple anymore. But I like this. It challenged me, and I'm going to come back to it. But one of the things I think we all had to bring up is even on Team Blue, the performance on this is just kind of shit, and that needs really to be addressed before I can pop into this and take a look around and experience the world.
But yeah, this is one of those games that even if you get to the point where the FERPs don't exactly match up to the gameplay, that's bad. But this is a pretty slow-paced game, so yeah, if it dips down to 30, you're still fine. It's when it dips down below that you start notice it. It does dip below 30 a lot. And like I said, my biggest gripe with this game is it's not even the performance. It's the puzzles, because I like puzzle games. I do. I played through all of the Myst series and I was left wanting more. Now, if I go back to those games, I know the puzzles just inside out, so I can finish the games pretty damn quickly. This game, the video you're watching now, it's about 30 minutes long, and the first time I played through that bit, it took me about an hour and a half just looking for it's like, where is the puzzle? What do I need to do? And that's not good. That's really not good.
Yeah, the sort of puzzle games I like are, like I mentioned before, Stephen Sausage Roll or The Bridge, where they give you like a simple set of rules. Here are the constraints of all the puzzles, and now we're going to start fucking with you and sort of playing with your idea of how things work and how things don't. This one, not so much. It's a bunch of assorted mishmash where you gotta, like Pedro said, run around and try and figure out what the hell you're actually supposed to be doing. And eventually, I gave up and I checked a walkthrough, and it's like, oh, maybe if they telegraphed that a little better, I would have gotten that, but whatever, I don't care. And it'll continue to be like that. Coming up next, we discuss the finer points of what constitutes a good heretic purchase and talk about why you should give yourself mammograms on a regular basis.
So, this is what it's like when worlds collide. So this is what it's like. Yes, it's the hate mail. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, go to LinuxGameCast.com, you hit the contact button, you fill out the form, make sure to pick LGC Weekly from the little Dropbox there, unless you're trying to send some feedback to that other show we do on Wednesdays called Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, which was supposed to be a working title, but yeah, it kind of stuck around. But if you don't like contact forums and you are a Free Software Foundation Platinum member or whatever they call it, you can also leave us a comment on whatever social network I don't know where I'm going with that. Let's just move on. So what do we have in terms of hate mail this week?
We got some Doom.
Freya.
You want to take it?
I'll take this one.
Right. Okay.
Excuse me. Should we reward Bethesda for not porting a game to new plus Linux, Stallman improved, I threw that in, that already has an OpenGL and a Vulkan render? With all of our monies? ? He does ask. To which I say, nay.
What a wonderful time of day. I mean, Ben's right. They did not create a Linux port. Despite the fact that they're using OpenGL or Vulkan, that's fantastic. There are a ton of Windows games that are actually using OpenGL and very, very few that are using Vulkan, unfortunately. But that may change in the near future. Regardless, no tucks, no bucks. Unless you want to burn a heretic purchase.
Seriously, unless you want to burn a heretic purchase, you're allowed 5 according to the chairs. So if you haven't bought any non-Linux games since you decided to call yourself a quote-unquote Linux gamer or a true Linux user, as it were, not a filthy dual-booting heathen, Strider, you can, if you want to burn a heretic purchase, sure. Chances are it's probably going to run all right in wine, but no, it's especially because it's Bethesda.
No, man, I mean, definitely, I kind of gone mixed on this one. I mean, if this was like some game that was just made out of stupid, awesome monkey sauce, like Skyrim, I was like, all right, we're burning one on that. There's no way around that. I got to play this game, which I did. It's one of my heretic purchases. But this has more to do with the fact that it's fucking Doom. And this is the first fucking Doom game that we do not have on Linux because Peace Among Worlds, man, no other reason than that. I was playing Doom on Linux. I was playing Quake on Linux, OpenGL accelerated with 3DFX graphics in 96. Man, this is principle alone. It's like, this looks like a really cool game, but fuck you guys.
Yeah,
indeed. You know what? If id follows their pattern, though, we may get some sloppy seconds years down the road when they have the new engine sauce out, and they're like, they'll Doom engine. We're not using it for anything.
Do you also think ZeniMax is going to let them get away with that?
I have no clue. Maybe if they get drunk enough or like they sniff a bunch of plastic powder, they might.
Considering how litigious happy they tend to be, no.
They're no Oracle, but up next we got we got something from Kylonix. He's talking about Amama grapes of muumuus, and he says, "I'm really liking this game a lot so far, but damn, the crashes to the desktop are killing my enjoyment. I hope the vids and info I share with the devs are sufficient enough that they can fix this problem soon. Great content, fellas. Keep it up. I've only dealt with 2 crashes in Anima. I don't know about the rest of you."
No, Onomatopoeia, Grapes of Memories was, I didn't have really one crash at all. Still got to go back and continue playing that because I thoroughly enjoyed it. Mr. Kylonix is enjoying it as well. But yeah, it does need some work because you're not the only person by far that has had a spite nope or 2 from it.
That's weird because I have about 9 hours-ish, or more, probably more at this point, into the game, and I didn't get a single crash. I didn't get one.
There's critical pieces of information. I mean, he's like, when I've had these crashes running the Radeon open source drivers on Arch, then...
Yeah, okay, sure. But
I mean, good on him for providing dev feedback, too.
Right.
I did get one crash, and I know I'm not the only one with that one because when I went to their Steam forums, there was someone else who had the exact same crash in the exact same place, which was right at the end of the tutorial when what's-his-face says, it's too late, and the little white flash happens, the game just crashed. And when I came back in, it actually resumed the cutscene that was supposed to play next. So I didn't really miss anything.
I think I actually got that one too. I see that sounds vaguely familiar. So I think I may have ran into that one.
Yeah, apparently it's a thing with the game. Maybe something with the Linux version that they didn't account for, which, considering the game has a Unity screen of nope, it's probably to be expected.
All right. I guess on that crashy bombshell, let's cue the music. You can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Saturday nights, except for next week. Jordan and I will be here, but we need a third. Worst case scenario, we'll have to do a news only, but we will be taking some volunteers probably after the show if you're unfortunate enough to be that person. I'm at Vince Stone on the Twitter nets if you want to scream in that. I did get a laugh at Ryan sent me after he played on the Twitters. He's like, guess what? My Secret Santa gift was something to fuck me in the face. Yes, somebody sent him a steamy HTC Vive, and I was like, oh man, ultimate white elephant gift there. But I'm plus Vince Stone on the G pluses as well.
I don't know about racist elements, or racist elements for that matter, but I'm Jordan Svung. You can find me pushing the button Frank at Burning Fool on Twitter, plus Jordan Svung on the Google Plus.
Indeed, and my Christmas gift to you, all of you watching us right now, is that I won't be here next week for Christmas.
It's just what I wanted.
I will be joining you for the week after that. Well, there will be a lot of booze and a lot of celebrating of coming 2017 and my move to the UK at some point. But you can find me right now, as the case may be, here in Portugal or at Unaccounted For on Twitter or plus Pedro Mateos on Google+.
Okay, well, I guess... damn, Pedro. I mean, you can't giveth me like we're not going to be here, but I'm going to be back a week after that and taketh away.
the Pedro giveth and the Pedro taketh away. It doesn't necessarily belong to him, but he's going to try. He's a grabby guy. He's a grabby.
I'm going to stretch the limits. It's about as much as I can.
You're going to stretch my asshole if you keep talking. Jeez.
Is that what you call your noise tube?
Also, yes. 5 dudes.